just give the average Joe an insight of what's it like playing at this level.
Friday night's always been a personal favourite of mine. You've got the long weekend. Everyone's just wanting that release, that stimulation, just to watch a macabre sport of gladiatorial confrontation. And you feed off that as athletes. Like, you love it, love it, love it, love it, love it, love it.
The trio is back together. Nick Hartman is back from holiday. He's had the chance to watch the footy matches from the weekend. We've got 3 weeks left of Super Rugby Pacific regular season. It's dropped kickoff time. You know who I am. I'm Nick W. We've got Mr. Nick Hartman joining us, and of course, Mr. Nathan Williamson. First of all, I'll throw it to the man himself. Mr. Hartman, obviously not the best result on the weekend, but did you have a good holiday? How was the holiday?
Xin Chao, everyone. Yeah, it was fantastic. Fantastic holiday. Disappointed I got to miss out on Zach Lomax's heroics against the Chiefs, I think it was, in Perth. But yeah, good to be back in a country where beers are more than $1 and I can't buy them on the street.
Makes you wonder. You go to Vietnam and places like that and go, why can't we do that in Australia? What's the worst that can happen buying a beer on the street and
absolutely.
for $1? No one will abuse that. Definitely not Mr. Nathan Williamson, who I believe
man, he's such a druggo, this guy.
Yeah, did you see him? You guys got drunk at the courthouse last Thursday? Out of control. That's what I heard.
I'm a drunk, not a druggo. Get it right. And my drinking is 60% rugby related, so.
Yes, I was going to say, when we were doing the blogging and stuff, I was lucky enough to you handed me the Brumbies Force game, and you had to sit through Tars Highlanders. Which should we just rip the Band-Aid off and talk about it? Because I'm not going to lie, even though 3 of the teams have got finals and have got a pretty favourable run home, finals in the mix for them, I must admit I'm feeling a little bit flat at the moment, given the run of the Australian sides, probably since Super Round, has been a bit off. Am I just being a pessimistic Australian fan, or do we have good reason?
I'll take this one, Nathan.
You take it.
I'll take this one.
Yes,
yeah, Nick, and look, in my characteristic, unthinking, ignorant, perhaps harebrained comments, but, I feel closer to the pulse here, Nick, closer to the pulse. You look at that table. You got Hurricanes, Chiefs, Blues, Crusaders, 1-4. Brumbies and Reds, 5-6. I mean, Paul Cully. Look, and look. In my defence, people. Let's just call him Nathan W. Would be poo-pooing me for this, but who gives a fuck? Like, this is why. Like, Paul Cully wrote a story about Super Rugby, it's got to look at itself. You still get the same 6 teams in the finals every year, more or less, is what he was saying. An article I think about last week. I mean, you look at this and you just kind of go, Super Rugby, who gives a shit? That's my feeling, Nick. Talking about the run of form, because I'm not so much a form and not so much a game. Like, watching sport isn't about or the stats or whatever. There is a vibe to it. There's heart to it. They say a lot about rugby. It doesn't really have that tribalism, at least in Super Rugby, and Rugby League does. That's a big part of the flavour to it, the interest in it. And look, Nick, it's not really about the performances, which we can get to, but man, I am feeling flat. It's happened again. They're finally talking about bringing people over. I don't know if you boys covered the last 2 week's podcast. I didn't listen. I was on holiday. I wasn't in Australia. I don't know if you guys covered it, but I mean, they're talking about, finally we should, the Kiwis should be able to play in Australian super sides and whatever. Man, like, fuck yeah. And the performances on the weekend, I mean, and let's talk about, at least 2 of them, or 3 of them, sorry. One is Waratahs, one's Reds, and one's the ref at the Reds. Oh, my God. But yeah, man, flat as shit. I mean, even Fiji isn't killing it, and they should be because it's basically the Fiji national team B-side. But yeah, man, flat, Nick.
Nathan, can you save us? Are we being the eternal pessimistic side? I mean, part of me does. I'm not necessarily at.
No, do you agree with me, Nick? Come on.
I'm saying I'm being flat. Saying flat. I'm asking Nathan. Is he in agreement about the flatness? Are we more flat than a fucking flat Earth fucker who looks at a disc of the world and thinks, yeah, that'll do. That's how things work. This is how everything is corrected. Yes, we're in the center of the universe. Nathan, are we flat and delusional?
You know way too much about flat Earth. I think you're a flat earther. That's what I took out of that. Didn't say no. So I'll take that. Yes.
I've seen his search history.
Still, he does not protest. I think it's just the nature of the results on the weekend, right? Like, and Brumbies had a good win over the Force, but the Brumbies have just passed hiccups that have soured a lot of people's expectations on the year and how far they can go. Like, I thought the Reds were unreal. They took it to the Chiefs, but the reality is they didn't win, and that's Nick kind of touched on it. There wasn't decisions that helped their case, and the Waratahs that symbolised their season. 20 minutes of absolute dog shit, but then 60 minutes of solid performance that isn't enough to override 20 minutes of dog shit. So I think it's like if the Reds or the Waratahs scored in those last couple of minutes, and that game turns, and we're feeling so much more different. We're talking about how good the Waratahs are, because we're biased, of course, and how their finals, if the finals are still on, blah, blah, blah. If the Reds have a couple of calls go the other way, score at the end, we're talking about how they've taken down a top seed, and now they're all of a sudden not only in the hunt for a home final, but a potential contender. Like, I think, again, swings and roundabouts of a competition. We've just found ourselves barracking for our heads and it's landed on tails twice. Like, it's the nature of the beast, right? But we've got a couple of weeks of derbies and hopeful wins so that we can build some momentum, and the cycle will start itself again. So by the time that first finals week rolls around, we're going to be saying, if the Brumbies and Reds play well, they can nab a Kiwi scalp, surely. It's, again, as my tag says, it's Groundhog Day. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Nathan talking like he's employed by some sort of official body there.
Well, I mean, I'm talking like someone who has to cover this, so I would rather stay positive and look for potential moments of hope and optimism rather than just be like, all right, this is shit. Like, I'm just going to drag a ball and chain. Because no one wants to do that. Let's look on the bright side, in the words of Monty Python.
We'll compare viewing figures and engagement, Nathan, on the analytics. My rant versus your soliloquy over there.
It's cute. I appreciate it. Well, let's start with Reds. Let's start with Reds Chiefs and on Friday night and talk about this game because, I mean, I think you two, to be honest, have nailed it pretty well. The side, I thought, as you kind of correctly say, the Reds looked pretty solid in that game. The frustrating part is, yes, I think there's quite a few questions about some of the decisions, but even with that, they still had a chance to win this game, which is kind of where I'm like, yes, people can complain or moan about the officiating calls, but also at the same time they had a chance to win that match a little bit. Nathan, what do you think?
Look, I'll let Nick sounds like he's got a rant ready to go for the refs, so I'll save that for him. I think the Reds definitely have the cattle to contend with some of the best sides in the world, and like they looked better with Carter Gordon back. I think Harry Wilson's just finding another gear to his game. Trayvon Pritchard's step on Dan McKenzie was sexy. Good old Splinter getting the job done there. But yeah, it's just that quality missing to close out games, to keep their heads and try and go level. Not only get back to level, but just get in front. It's frustrating. They just let those opportunities go. And that's a very similar situation to past games where it's like a step forward, but that step isn't a win. And interesting refereeing. Hartman,
Wind him up. Wind it up, Hartman. Let's go.
Mate, look, I don't really have a rant about the refereeing. Obviously, the TMO decision was, I am sympathetic to referees. I am sympathetic to the whole idea that, well, no, I guess sympathetic. It's not really an idea that gets struck out a lot, but it should, because the idea that there's nothing that we can do to fix ref errors and for people to be satisfied on the whole. I mean, look how much stuff we've introduced, replays, whatever, and it just makes the ref hate get worse. Maybe someone who was up and about in the 70s and 80s can maybe provide some actually, feedback on that. But I don't think we'll get anywhere. But I mean, that TMO issue was just like the TMO was waiting for his dinner, and he just was like, yeah, one angle, that's fine. Just different. Like, not just human error, like just fucked. Like, incompetent. Like, I don't want to hate on the refs, but he should be hated on that TMO for saying one angle's done.
Like, so the rulings come out that they've looked at every single angle, and they found that the ball hit the ground, but they had no proof that it actually hit the line. And it's like, all well and good. They probably did. They probably did a sweep, but the optics of it were terrible. Like, it quite literally just looked like they were rushing off the field. Now, when you watch that back, can you be certain that was there enough conclusive evidence? Probably not. But you don't spend 25 seconds on it. Just take your time. Sometimes the illusion is more important than the actual result. Because the reality is, this has all come from the fact of a perception of it just took too long. And it might not have. It might, a 2-minute check probably gets the exact same result, but everyone feels a lot better for it. But the fact it was 25 seconds, that's what people have the issue is. It wasn't just a teammate. It wasn't just a teammate. There was a couple of referee calls that were just... you look at it and go, that's not a... If you're in New Zealand and you the New Zealand side get those calls, the Reds just didn't. And look, referees have tough games. That it happens, but it's just frustrating that it feels like it happens more often than not to the Australian sides.
And I feel like, and I do have sympathy for them. Like I've said to you boys, remember when they had that massive push against, you go over the top of the ruck, you put your hands on the ground, and then you scoot back to take the ball. And there was the penalty given, I think it was the last points of the game, correct me if I'm wrong, Nathan, where that happened. But then the Reds got penalised for coming into the side of the ruck. Well, it's like, that's just happened. And I feel sorry for the refs that they are given things to look at. And there's a thousand things going on in the game, especially at rucks. There's probably 3 infringements if you really wanted to call in anything in every ruck. I remember one of them being you couldn't bounce the ball in front of the halfway line when you did a kickoff. Do you remember that? That was a couple of years ago. They just started punishing it. It's kind of like cops and RBOs. RBT, sorry. So, I mean, I have sympathy, but sorry, to go back to your point, it's justice has to be seen to be done. It's not so much that people get caught with crimes, it's that cops are patrolling the street so you feel safe, even though they're maybe not doing, solving crimes, whatever. And there is a massive problem in rugby with that. Massive, massive problem. And they don't seem like they've come up with a strategy to placate the ref bashing, I guess. Maybe like, it's going to happen anyway, we can't do anything, but they're not trying anything. I don't feel, and it's just, and it's not even trying to communicate what they're doing. I remember when we had a friend of the pod, Graham Cooper, who runs the Australian refs program on the pod, and he was saying stuff like they're doing VR, they've got a VR headset, and they have games loaded, and that's part of the training with refs. Like, fantastic, you go, oh, okay. Actually, these guys are trying things. They are trying new things to improve their performance. But just in situations like that, that ethos doesn't come across. And Nathan, you say, the official line. I mean, I haven't seen that official line until you told me. That wasn't clear at the time either. It's just like one angle. It never seems to be...
That came out today. It didn't. It quite literally came out 12:30 Monday. So a couple of hours after we're recording this. So, like...
Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like, it kind of feels like, as well, honestly, it also feels like that they got her in a room and they're like, shit, what do we say? Like, we fucked up, what do we say, you know? Like, but that's just my one-off perception. Like, they didn't do it an hour after the game. Didn't do it Sunday noon, you know what I mean? It's just...
That's common in every sport, though. That's like the NRL does it on the Monday. Like, they just have a full goddamn press conference with the referee's boss, like Monday midday. So it happens. You got to look through a game, but
yeah, okay, maybe, but still, I like if after the game you go, oh shit, what happened there? Oh, we actually looked at everything. Oh, I was watching the broadcast; it didn't come through. We got to say something about it. Easy peasy, basic stuff, and I think that's a really important step. I mean, and I've said it before, there's lots of things like you're at a ground, you go, oh, hang on, was that guy's foot out? And you never see a replay of it, just to say, oh, actually, or they never say something, oh, we actually checked, his foot wasn't out.
I think generally speaking, I think we should kind of also put a disclaimer on this as well. I mean, at least I will, because I think the idea has been for the refs this year to try and play a bit faster and up the speed and tempo of the game. And I think for the generally it's worked. Very generally, it's worked. Games feel faster. It's kind of noticed it a lot with the Brumbies force on Friday on Saturday night, where Nick Berry kept saying to the halfbacks, Nick, just like, Ryan, stop fucking around. Well, he didn't say that. Just said, Nick, stop freaking messing around. Like, actually play the ball, go fast. I think the issue is here, kind of going back to a good point Nathan made, and you've also backed up, Nick, is that it's just it's how it looked. It's how it looked at the ground. If you're just going to brush over it, and it seems like a very, very significant thing, sometimes there's not. And I mean, I think with league and even with football and stuff like that, you do get those moments where there's a bit of drama, and there's not a bad thing to actually stop and take the extra time to say it, to kind of give the perceptional look that it's being thoroughly checked and looked at. Even though you're trying to make the game as fast as possible, if it's something like a significant moment, it can actually play into the drama of the whole thing to give it that make it a minute 30 instead of 25 seconds. I think the fact that they just brushed over it and went, all right, we're done, that's it, is the worst part. Maybe there's a captain's challenge call in there. I think we've talked about doing like a captain's challenge, like as an idea, but maybe it's just they rushed it through so quickly because they've just been used to doing that all of this season, and as a result, people are going, well, you didn't fucking look at it properly.
Yeah. And credit to Matt Fessler too, who had to do the halftime interview immediately after.
Oh yes, he did.
So credit to him. He was like, well, shit happens, which was a great response, and the response you need. And also, sorry, I don't know, Nick, if you're across this. I was talking to Nathan about this, but what's his name? Les Kiss prevented some of his players from doing post-match interviews on the field.
I did hear that there was something like that going on. I also noticed, before we get to Tars, that it was just Dan McKellar at the presser by himself as well. Like, I'm assuming, it's always up to the coaches and the staff discretion about which players they're going to let. But yeah, I mean, I did hear something about it. Do you think there's anything to it, or just the fact that the players might have been pissed off?
I think it's an aspect of, well, he doesn't trust his players not to say the right thing, which is one aspect to it. Another aspect too is like, I think there was a bit of a red flag in it that, he's pulled it once, will he pull it again? As in this stunt, as in not letting people speak to the press after. I don't know. There's a bit of a sour taste in my mouth about that, but yeah. I do. I'm not going to go to a member of the press, Nathan, to hear his thoughts. No one cares. I'm joking. I do have a coda to this ref chat, though, because I didn't have a rant, but someone else did. And that person was Joe Hockey, former Treasurer of Australia.
Oh, my God, I saw that, yeah.
All caps. The worst refereeing, end caps, I have ever seen in rugby. #Red versus Chiefs. One day rugby may get it right. Forget the result. It was horrible, inconsistent, and confusing for all players and fans. Hashtag Super Rugby is a loser.
It's mental that that's what he's doing his best.
I love
funny.
it. I love it. I'm for it. And this guy doesn't really say a whole lot on Twitter.
He just comes out of nowhere.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah.
like
He does a post a month.
it's like fucking, I don't know, what's a good comparison? Like fucking Kesha is, oh yeah, we're gonna do freaking, I'm gonna provide a whole bunch of dirt about the Epstein files. I did not know that you were this emotionally invested in something that we didn't think you were that invested in. Bloody Joe Hockey. That's funny.
That's right. But I mean, like there was, I don't want to just ref bash because there was actually things that were good about that game. Like Carter Gordon, fucking awesome. That
Yeah,
pass
give him
from Harry
that
Wilson.
Willoughby's 10 jersey. Yeah, sorry, we should talk about the game. Willoughby's 10 jersey.
Yeah, let's talk about the actual game. Like he deserves that 10 jersey. That flick pass from Harry Wilson, sexy.
Amazing.
Oh yes.
If only
So
you could
good.
consistently beat the game line. He put on some great shots. Great work.
He's one of those
runner-up.
players. He's slow but surely works his way into a season, and you're getting a little bit more out of him. But yeah, as that's why I think him and Valtini work really well, because when Harry Wilson has to be that your only source of go forward, that's just not his style of play. His skill is he's 115 kilos, but has the hands and the essentially hand-eye coordination of someone who's about 85. Like his kicking game's sensational for his size. He's got the passing game. He can dummy. He can he's got pace about him. Like he's just not that type of player. Like plenty to like from just a general Wallabies perspective, and even from a junior Wallabies perspective, or under 20s, Australian under 20s with Trayvon Pritchard. Fucking him putting Damien McKenzie in the blender. I was just like, hell yeah.
Oh,
And look, the section's going to come later, but also shout out to Dagudu, who he's an action man. He's a Swiss Army knife of backs. He can do anything. If he was South African, the South Africans would be drooling over him if he was a Safa. He's got he can hit a ruck fucking hard, big boy. Yeah, big fan,
dude. I've said this with a couple of our wingers. If they were South African, if they were Scottish, if they were Irish, they would have been just the first pick for their team for several years, and really look like glazing over the top of them like they're the next big thing. Like sometimes we need to celebrate what we've got, because particularly outside backs, it's unreal.
Well, at least you can say with the Reds, even though they lost that game, they're clinging on to their finals position, and they've got probably one of the best runs home of the Australian sides. I think 3 out of 4 of the Australian sides have a pretty decent run home, because apart from the game this weekend, the hardest game was this weekend against the Force in Perth, but then they've got Moana Pacifica and then Fiji and Drua at home. So you'd be fair to say that they'd be favourites for those last 2 games. And if they get them over the line, I think it would be enough to keep the teams behind them, like knock the teams behind them down, and then hold on to that position to qualify for finals. But yeah, who knows? Shall we talk about this damn Highlanders Tars game?
Tars Highlanders, please.
Mr. Hartman. I'm gonna go out on a limb here. I mean, not that I always don't whenever it comes to opinions about the Tars, but I have a feeling. I was kind of looking at this game and looking at what comes next, what their next few games look like. They got to go to Fiji to play the Drua, Brumbies at home, and then away to face the Force, which, to be honest, is it's the hardest of all the Australian sides in terms of a run home.
I'd say it's a hard run home. I mean,
yeah, it's a hard run home.
They have no New Zealanders in it. Yeah,
yeah, and I think they might be done if they lost that game against the Highlanders, because if that's the standard, I mean, obviously, of course, if they can turn this around with a big performance, knock off Fiji, knock off the Brumbies, like then we're having a different conversation. But considering this also came hot on the heels of their loss to the Force, which was just an awful game of rugby, like I'm a bit worried they might be done. They might be out of gas.
Yeah, look, there's always an element to these, or they can make finals chats, but it's like, oh, you get in finals, you just get bundled out at the first hurdle. So what's the point? I don't like the chats. Like, you get in the finals, but you don't have a chance anyway. And I'd say that's where the Tars are. 10-hour flight from Dunedin to Suva, by the way. So that's a bit effed.
From Dunedin to
Tars.
Suva.
Yeah, well, aren't they playing Fiji and
Fiji?
Fiji?
They flew.
Nandy, wouldn't they?
No, they flew back to Sydney.
Yeah, but
that's not so bad.
What? And
That's
then
not so bad.
yeah, so go on.
What do you mean?
Look-
What do you mean go on? They flew back to Sydney, spent 4 days in Sydney, and then fly to.
Oh, okay, all right. I thought they'd just go over.
Just an
This
excuse
is why I had to go on.
Just an excuse for a week in Fiji.
Yeah. Anyway, the game. So I actually didn't know it was on, so I missed the first half. But I missed all the action. But I don't think I needed to. Look. My first thought is it's like there's a couple of things. Just general high level. Fucking pathetic that you lose to the worst or second worst New Zealand team by Moana when they've had 14 men for half an hour in the game. And it just defies logic that they find gems in the front row, Dobbins, Lambert, Botha, and you have like this amazing backline that just can't fucking fire. It was just, I mean, so to kind of link it to the Reds game, not that I want to compare New South Welshmen to Queenslanders, but a lot of the same stuff. They got themselves into some really good positions. Like the Highlanders defense was amazing, but they just butchered so many chances. I think it was that about, was it like 3 penalties in a row in the 22 or something, Nathan? Maybe you can recall. One of them maybe not a penalty, but a knock on by the Highlanders, and they just in the 22 in just 5 minutes, and they couldn't get anywhere. Just dumb fucking play, like running it at Tavita Tananana
Give me the gem.
Who already had pilfered 3 balls or something that game, just running it in without support. Like, just dumb shit like that. That's the affliction of Australian rugby. Line out just fell apart. They're relying on Dobbins to hold it together, and he was limping at the end. Just so, like, we need to have you on. It's just shit. Like, I don't know. Like, look, Swiley looked good, but then again, they're one down in defence.
That was the only positive either.
Jorga's influence has waned. I don't think it's Jorga's fault that's happened, but his influence has waned. Sid Harvey looks good. 20 years old, looks fantastic, actually. We really missed Matt Phillip. But yeah, fuck, man. I don't... It's fucking atrocious. I don't know how to say it. I mean, thank God we got the February Champions Trophy.
That's all that matters.
Which should
and
actually
Super
be
Rugby
a
Oz.
trophy.
You got
So we can
and
have
Super
something.
Rugby Oz. You can take the Super Rugby Oz trophy as well.
But anyway,
this is why we talk shit when we do. Like, I will add to Nick's point. For a long time there was just nothing going right. Like, the scrum was absolutely monstered for 50 minutes. You're right about Sully. Like, Sid Harvey was good in attack, but like Caleb Tungeltau ran through him all day. Caleb Tungeltau's ridiculous. He's a freak. He's got to start for the All Blacks. He basically one man wrecking balled them for 20 minutes, for the first 20 minutes there. But with all that said, with all that Nick said, they still had a chance to win that game. That's the crazy thing, is they've not played well over the last fortnight. And that's an understatement. They've still put themselves in position to win games. Like, they had 5 injuries out of that game. Both hookers went down. The reason why Dobbins was limping around. I think Kellaway was shot. I think Kellaway had a HIA.
Blythe's got a boot. Blythe's in a boot. That's what I know.
Basically probably cracked his foot. and there's another one, I think Pete Samu or someone like that was out. So they're probably pulling a hooker out of club rugby this week, on top of the 5 or 6 they lost the week beforehand. And yet they still had a chance to win this game, which is mental, I think. But yeah, as again, Nick summed up pretty well. Just wasted too many chances. Like they had the points in them, but geez, they left it too late for an actual comeback, which is annoying. But yeah, this is
a bit like the Reds game, is that they were in a really good spot, did 2 good things, and just fucked it up. You know, 1-2 penalties in a row, played really smart rugby, kick for touch, go to the line out. Line out was a shambles, and that was a bit like the Reds.
Yeah. Just it's again why we celebrate and why we talk so much shit when we do in the first 6 rounds, because we know this is coming. This is not our first radio, people. We know what's coming, so you got to get.
And
it
we
out.
know the joy that people get out of that, and the hate, and how much it annoys them simultaneously.
Yes.
Happy to be the personification of all of you folks listening whenever Nick and Nathan go off on a Waratah rant. Yeah, I'm not going to lie.
We have to, right? You can't throw the March Premiers around, because, you guys are almost the definition of March Premiers. They're better March Premiers.
Definitely this year.
This year, you guys won that title, 100%.
But in terms of really bright sparks, look, Nick, and if you're functionally talking about the season being over, in terms of bright sparks, was the front row. I think Matt Phillip has been amazing.
They got
lots of good youth coming through.
They got pumped.
No, he's talking about the season in general.
Talking about the season.
Season in general. This game, they were fucked.
The attack hasn't really fired, and look, as someone kind of pointed out, we don't have an inside centre or a 10, which is amazing. I thought, was it the one game against... Was it the Chiefs where they kept bombing tries? Or the Blues? I think it was the Blues game. That night, the attack looked fantastic, and the Waratahs have got one of them in the season. Last year, it was the Chiefs game. But it's just the same old story, and that happens again and again, and there is some kind of rot in the Waratahs somewhere. I think entering the season without a number 10. Nick, we hung out with your journo friends last week, and I can't remember who mentioned it. It might have been Finn. Mentioned that why don't they just play Jack Bowen? Or was it you, Nathan? Every year they end up starting him anyway, so why don't they just start him from the beginning of the season?
I think that the stat was Jack Bowen has been the starting half of the Waratahs the last 2 years. He has not started since I'm not sure if it's since then or to at least round 8 or 9 that year.
Yeah.
So he started one game last year, and that was the last game of the year against the Blues. He also started one game in 2024, the year before, and that was against the Blues. They're the 2 games that he has started for the Waratahs ever. All been the last game of a year.
Yeah, so it's just how you could enter a season without a super level 10, or just go, look, we don't have a super level 10, we're just going to play, the next youngster, which I would prefer over anything, They've
got, the problem is, you need more than a 6 out of 10, and that's all the Waratahs have. Credit to Jack Deb, friend of the pod.
Yeah, I was going to say, hang on, Debs is all right.
He's all right. The problem is, he's probably just a better finisher these days than he is a commanding 10 around the park.
And he's not the future. No offense.
No, he can still. What I have been surprised by is how frequently Debs has started, and I didn't know if it was because of injuries at fly half, but I thought that was the reason why Debs was being brought into the Tars, was because he was such an effective finisher at the Brumbies. Moving back home, good opportunity for him to apply that role and be that experienced head for the Tars to finish games properly, and they've made him start most games. So it's just that's
because Crichton was at the start of the season. Crichton was 10, and that didn't really work out. And then so they started playing Debrasini. I think he probably started round 4 which might have been the Brumbies game in Canberra, maybe round 5. He started
I think so.
at 10.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why he's been there. But Jack Bowen came on this game at the end. So yeah, but anyway, it's just people are criticising Dan McKellar, and sure, there's things to criticise him about, but I just don't think he's the issue. I mean, Rob Penny is now the Crusaders coach. Also found it difficult, the task.
Yeah, I mean, not wrong there. Well, shall we move on to the final game of the round featuring Australian sides, which was the derby in Canberra, which saw the ACT Brumbies get up over the Western Force, 32-15. The sees the Brumbies move up into 5th place. They've got the bye this weekend, so only 2 games left before the season ends. Before the season not ends, hopefully not. But before finals, the Force have got to go home. They've got 3 games in a row at home, but considering they're only on 18 points, they're 10 points back behind 6th place, or 9 points rather. Basically, they have to win everything and get some bonus points in there on top to have a genuine shot of making finals. I think the only positive I can take from this, there were a lot of positives to this game. This game was a good arm wrestle in the first half, but the thing that really brought it back for me in the second half was that Brumbies game management finally returned. The last 2 weeks, they've just been playing like the game against the Drua, the game against the Canes. They just felt like they were playing really not smart rugby and directionless rugby. And considering the depth and the challenges that they've had they've got a couple of players injured, a couple of inconsistencies. Tom Wright's not back to flying form yet. What you need a clear game plan to do that. What was good about this match was they actually played really smart in that second half and just constricted the Force, and the Force got frustrated, nearly conceded 11 penalties to the Brumbies 5, and bang, bang, see you later, game over. Just capitalising and taking chances. Nath, serious question. Do you reckon this sends a real message about Ryan Lonergan? Because he was phenomenal in this match. I think a big reason why the Brumbies won is because it was basically him and Tom Wright when it came to actual game smarts that actually put the Brumbies in the position to win this game and not get sucked into that Force's method of attritional direct play.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you mentioned Tom Wright not being back at form. I thought this was comfortably his best game for the Brumbies. His kicking game was a lot more astute. It felt like a lot more right decisions, but Ryan Lonergan kind of almost just dragged him to the win, and I think it's a great sign for his 9 hopes. I think Jake Gordon's still underrated by people. He still probably gets the start, but Ryan Lonergan's been he's doing everything right. Jake Gordon truthers, stand up. Look, particularly if you want to play Carter Gordon at 10, the Ryan Lonergan option at 9 just becomes more appealing day by day as his goal kicking starts to improve as well.
Not starting at 9?
Ryan Lonergan.
As a starting Wallaby? Really? Wow, I was not thinking that. Because, he's a good option, but, Gordon's the more experienced international player. I mean, I was just really impressed by his game smarts. I didn't realise you were thinking maybe he starts at 9. I'm assuming we're talking Tate off the bench here if we're talking Wallaby.
Let me get to Tate because I'm less convinced about Tate. Ryan, because I think the option for Ryan to start at 9 is linked to if you start Carter at 10, because Carter Gordon has shown no sign that he can goal kick, and if you're going into an international, there is nobody in a starting backline for the Wallabies for me that can goal kick that can goal kick consistently. Sully did it in league, but it's completely different for Union. Dungunu can kick, but all I've seen is it's a training. There's no other option. So if you want to, unless you give the 2 back to Carter or you pick Ryan Lonergan at 9. The reason why I said I'm less convinced about Tate is TikTok might be already out on it, so I'll explain a bit more. He's a running 9 coming back from a 8-month hamstring injury. That hasn't been spoken about enough. That's a red flag. That's a risk. We don't know how good he still is. or how that's a bad way of putting it. We don't know how underdone he will be by July. He could only have 1 or 2 games, so suddenly I think his spot is less secured in that 23. I mean, yeah, Henry Robinson has been great throughout the year, but he could be cooked with that knee injury. So there could be a realistic option that it's, Ryan Lonergan, Jake Gordon, Kalani Thomas, your 3 nines. It probably will be Tate, but I don't know. We don't know what he's like now. We don't, we're still got to wait and see what he does. But I think Ryan Lonergan keeps making a good case to really start at 9 if you want someone that can control the game and then go for a spark plug. Potentially use Jake Gordon as a spark plug. I think he's quick enough that he could do it.
I mean, he's good at an intercept. Yeah, he's good. He's good at intercepting. He's still an experienced head. Maybe bringing him off the bench as an experienced head, and you use your Jake Gordon as your not your Jake Gordon, your Ryan Lonergan as your kind of dictator at the start of the game, like to dictate the terms a little bit.
You then bring Gordon and Ben Donaldson on off the bench, thus solving your goal kicking issues, and then allowing Jake to maybe be a bit more of a sniper, be a bit more of a runner of the ball, which we don't really see that often of him these days. So
yeah, and it would also allow.
Who was the third choice 9 last in the November tour?
Kalani Thomas. So it was Thomas, Gordon, and Lonergan.
Right. Oh, okay. So Lonergan was third choice, I guess, because Tate was injured.
Lonergan was second choice, I'm pretty sure, because Jake Gordon started most of the games. On the end.
No, it was always Gordon.
Tate was injured.
Yeah, Tate was on the bench.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
L2 listen.
Yeah. So, but yeah, look, he's definitely putting a compelling case at Brumby's level. Certainly, he's the reason why that side won. The fact that he also combined with Lockie Lonergan, like for a proper backyard move to score that try early in the second half, which really was the try that took the game away from the Force, was particularly positive. Good to see Alatoa not get injured. Thank God he actually made it through a game without getting injured, because he's had a shocking run of injuries this season. So that was pretty good. Frost looked pretty good, pinched a couple of lineouts. I thought the lineout was actually pretty competitive between the two sides. Both sides pinched plenty of ball from each other, which looks promising, particularly with Swain in the mix there. He's looking pretty good there. Jeremy Williams as well. But yeah, I mean, if you're thinking about it from a Force... Nick, did you catch this game?
No, I was out. I did see Zach Lomax's hit.
That was decent.
Lomax. Lomax watch.
Speaking of Lomax watch, let's pivot to Force, because I thought Lomax, first and foremost, he looks dangerous under the high ball. Like, him and Suaalii, he changed the picture immediately. Because I think he outcompeted Satford and Tom Wright under the high ball. He looked like he was really getting into a good groove with that. And one of his high ball takes led to, I think it was the Force's first try early in the match, which eventually was finished off by HJH. The Force looked physical, looked good. They showed a couple of moments where they really kind of why they've won so many games in recent times. But that second half, they were just constricted, and then discipline let them down, conceding penalties. The scrum really fell apart for them as well. I think there was a stat from Stan Sport that said if they'd left Canberra with a win, they'd have a 47% chance of making finals. They're left with a loss, so their chance of making finals drops to 11%. So maybe it's a knockout blow for them, even with the 3 games running home. Where do we sit with the Force, Nath, about this? Because, it feels like a critical loss, even though they've got a pretty favourable run home.
That sucks. That's basically their finals hopes over for me. It's just too much. It's to the points they've got to make up is just too much. I would think, looking at the ladder, I think off the top of my head, the Force are on 17 points. I think you need 32 to get in. So they're on They're on 18 points. I think you need 32 to get in, so they would have to, even if they get 15, 3 bonus points, that gets them to, that technically gets them there, but it's an uphill battle. Again, it's disappointing because they've basically, you knew they were going to go on this run, and they've essentially played spoilers for a whole bunch of other Australian sides, and they probably will still continue to do that. But yeah, it sucks it took this long for them to find some form. The Zach Lomax point, I think, was very good. This goes back to my point last week about we now have a back line which is horses for courses. He looks comfortable in Union, which is a great sign for someone who's playing, I think, his 3rd game as a starter. The only point I will make is it does now feel a little telegraphed, the Forces attack. Like, it was all well and good when it was against the Crusaders and they couldn't stop him, but they then tried the same thing as the Waratahs and it didn't really work. Like, they won that game because they ran straight through the middle, not because of Zach Lomax under a high ball. Ironically, it was Dylan Peach under the high ball, who I also thought was good in this game as well. But this time around, like, he made a couple of good catches, but it does feel like the entire attack is just bomb the ball to him, and if that doesn't work, bomb the ball to him. So I think that's good. That's the next progression for the Forces. All right, we have this weapon. How do we be a bit more nuanced with it and get the best looks for him rather than, all right, well, we got the ball in hand. Zach, all right, you there? Good, start running. But yeah, it's disappointing from the Force. I think their final hopes are done. I think most teams are. When I look at the ladder, the Drua could make it. The Drua are kind of just like, I think they're the last team that could potentially make it, but I don't see them making it. Waratahs need to be, the Waratahs at 21 points need to be perfect, let alone the Force at 18. And the Highlanders' run home is just pretty arse. And they've got to buy, well. I think, buy this week or no. So they got to buy last round. Sorry, last round. Their run home is disgusting as well. Chiefs and Hurricanes, the top 2 sides, have got to play.
Yeah, week 16 they've got to buy. I'm pretty sure because I'm not seeing them
last round.
Last round they got to buy. So it's basically you're finishing with 1-2, which is rancid. So very likely their season is done unless they produce something insane.
So that's a long way of saying I think the Forces finals hopes are done, but I think also so are most teams in that top 6, barring an upset or two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's a difficult one to find ourselves in, which is why, as Nathan correctly points out in his bio, it's a bit of a Groundhog Day situation, so expect some big things. I mean, at least if you are a Force fan, I could take solace from the fact that you've got 3 consecutive games in the run home to have, so maybe you can pull it out of the fire, but the fact that it just goes back, Nath, all the way to that tour of New Zealand. Like, if they had pulled 2 wins on that tour, which they should have, if they just executed on that tour, we'd be having a different conversation. And this is a Force side that should be in the contention for finals. So, yeah.
I do want to add one thing about the Force, though, is that it's. They've been playing better and better as the season's gone on. They started really, really poorly, but it's been really coming together for them. And for a team that doesn't necessarily have the best squad on paper, like they have some great sections, at least on their first team sheet, Darcy Swain and Jeremy Williams in second row, for example. But yeah, like you do really want to, if the season was a couple of games longer, they would be in the finals the way they're going. And I like to say it's the Zach Lomax effect, but I don't.
It's a Dylan Peach effect.
Yeah. Oh, Dylan Peach. Oh, alhamdulillah, man. Come on.
Inshallah.
Yeah.
Should we talk shout-outs? Should we do some shout-outs before we wrap up?
Shout-outs.
Yes, it's shout-out time.
Yeah, Nick, you've got a couple. You've got a couple. Nick, why don't you go first?
Yeah.
Well, all right then. I'll go first then. Fine, I'll go first. Fuck. I would like to shout out Women's Six Nations final round this weekend, I believe. Yes, it is. And let's be honest, it's got the game that everyone really cares about when it comes to Women's Six Nations, which is France playing England in Bordeaux. It's 2v1. Realistically, the only side that's going to knock off and stop the Red Roses' winning run at this point, and they're at home in France. So there's my particular shout out. So that's a pretty big shout out in my neck of the woods. And I will leave talking about under 20s to you boys, because there's a good shout out in there.
Do you want to take it, Nick, or do you want me to shout them out?
You shout out. You shout out, mate.
I'll shout them out because they had a good win over Argentina. It was tight late. They found multiple ways to potentially lose it. I think they had a 17-point lead and conceded back-to-back tries. Then they got a penalty goal, and then Argentina scored based from the kickoff, missing a conversion to tie the game. So nervous, was 30 for it to end 32-30, but as I've said, I think throughout this year, there's so much I like about this Australian 20 side going into the World Champs in June/July. Like Edward Lange got a double. Leo Jake scored again. He looks great. Tom Robinson, son of the big dog Brett Robinson, got a try and I think 25 tackles. A skipper, and then you add Trayvon Pritchard, Wallace Charlie, Kingsley Ace. Hopefully Nicholas Conway. I don't know his status, but hopefully Nicholas Conway. Like there's a good group of kids coming through here, and they are just kids because most of them will be eligible for the 20s next year. So it's just the sky's the limit in terms of pathways. I think as I've said before, this is a great generation of talent and one that narrowly should have beat New Zealand, who tied with South Africa in that final game to hand South Africa the title. So we're not that far off from competing with the best.
It's a good little comp. I'm not going to lie. Like the last few years, the difference between first and last with all of these sides is just there's barely anything between them. It's a good little comp to watch, and yeah, it looks pretty solid out there as well. So fingers crossed. I mean, they've got a good run as well. Like the big challenge for them is taking on France, but I can see them beating France. This side, I can see them doing that, and if they do, then they're into top 4 calculations, which is already better than where they finished last year. And the fact they're playing in Georgia too is pretty solid. Mr. Hartman, have you got a shout out?
Do I have a shout out? Oh, boys, I'm usually full of them. Do I have a shout out? Shout out from me.
Is there a shout out at a certain situation happening south of the border?
Yeah, I don't want to shout that out though, and it's not shout out worthy. I tell you what is shout out worthy though. I'm shouting out Sid Harvey for getting in the scrap. Bit of effing and jeffing, bit of excitement, got the blood boiling in the Highlanders game. And I think it was shout out Amatosero who came in and started biffing, which I love. So
that's unlike him.
Yeah, it is unlike him. He is. Yeah. He famously, goes on meditation retreats, doesn't he? Yeah. Shout out all of that, Nick. Shout out all of that. Who else do I want to shout out? Shout out Matt Fezler for his halftime interview, which I mentioned earlier before.
I'll add an additional shout out. Shout out Darcy Swain for getting another. We have the handshake gate struck again with Michael Hooper not accepting a handshake from Darcy Swain on the way out. I reckon that's the reason why the Force lost. Like just the psychological thing of getting a handshake not accepted by the commentator ruined everything.
No,
that's what happens when we put an ex-Brumby in that position.
No shout out.
Although, who is getting a shout out? Darcy Swain again for dropping the kickoff. Nick, you forgot to mention that.
He did.
You fucked it.
Yes, he did. Mr. Swain dropped the kickoff, and I will add, not only did he drop the kickoff, it led to a try. So tonight's podcast is as a signal of the worst possible thing that can happen on a rugby pitch being named the name of this podcast. Shout out to Darcy Swain this is the Darcy Swain tribute podcast in appreciation for him proving that to be the case once again, because not only did he drop the kickoff, but then the Brumbies went and scored a try pretty much immediately afterwards. So double whammy.
Yes, indeed.
I reckon that does us then. Let's call it for a week. I think it's been a solid, quality, high intensity meeting of the minds, meeting of the boys here talking rugby. So thank you very much, Mr. Nathan Williamson. Thank you very much, Mr. Nick Hartman, back from holiday and back for good, hopefully. And for everyone listening, we hope you enjoy your rugby this weekend. Hopefully, at the end of this, we'll be feeling a lot less flat.
We've got another week to get back on the horse and take that horse to the water, and you can ask that horse, you can say, hey horsey, do you want to have a drink or do you want to swim? Yeah, and it's up to that horse to then realise what he wants to do in his life. So we're looking forward to, like I say, getting back on that horse.
And are you looking forward to getting back on the horse 6 months since we last saw you?
I don't like horses, I can't ride.
Give myself an uppercut.
Oh, fuck, I forgot a shout out.
What's the shout out? Well, we can add this at the end. I'll add it in the end now. What's the shout out?
Additional shout out, Angus Bell, for all the doom and gloom that was coming of, he's going to miss the July series, blah, blah, blah. He's back playing for Ulster. I think got through 55 minutes from the foot injury. Thank God he's back, because he is so important to that Wallaby side, and I'm now death riding Ulster. No offense to Belly, I love you, but I hope that team gets knocked out. So you are home in Australia as soon as possible, and you can't get injured, because Christ, we need him. God, we need him this test season.
Don't shout out Ulster. Get knocked out, Ulster. But keep going, Belly.